What's up, everyone? My name is Josh, and this is Josh Unboxed, and welcome back to the Daily Grind, a video series where I talk about particular cards, plays, strategies, and news and how it affects the overall sports card market. In other words, it's just a way for us to kind of help navigate through the craziness that is the sports card market of today, and also to help us make much more sound purchasing and selling decisions when it comes to our cards. Today, I kind of want to talk about selling your cards because I just recently started selling my cards again and talk about when is the right time to sell. And to be blunt with you, it's hard to answer. I don't know. But there are certain pockets of time in which it'd be a good time to sell. And that's what we're going to discuss about in this video. First off, how many times has this happened to us? You have a card, you see it start rising in price, and you tell yourself, I'm going to hold off just a little longer because I think this card will go up even more. And then you hold on to it and all of a sudden the card starts coming down. And then you tell yourself, man, I should have sold it earlier. But then on the flip side, you sell a card too early and you see a card start rising up, and then you start kicking yourself in the butt and telling yourself, man, I wish I would have held on. So it's always very hard to determine when to sell a card or when is the right time to sell the card in terms of its price point. Because if everyone's trying to maximize their profit, you will most likely, more oftentimes than not, rarely hit that target. I mean, there's some good strategies out there of saying like, come up with a goal of what percentage ROI you are most comfortable with and sell at that point. Hey man, that's a great strategy. You know, you can never lose out on profit. If you tell yourself, I bought this card at 150 and I'm okay with getting a $50 profit and selling it at 200, then you can never lose, right? You're gonna get that $200, you're gonna make that $50, and you can just reinvest that into something else. However, while that's a sound strategy, here's another option that I think about when selling my cards. And what it really comes down to is that cyclical nature that I talk about in the sports card market, where things go up and down and fluctuates up and down. And there are particular pockets in a season or particular pockets in the year of when would be a good time to sell. One of them is right before the season starts. Right before the season starts, there's a lot of speculation, there's a lot of hype, and people get really, really excited for the upcoming season, no matter what sport it is, football, basketball, hockey, soccer, baseball. There's excitement for the upcoming season because you've been away from the game for however many months, right? You're getting all this new news, you're seeing everything popping up, and you're getting really excited for your team, for certain players. And at that time, there's a frenzy and the hype, just an emotion, and people start buying up cards thinking that, okay, this year is the year for this person. That's usually a good time to sell because the demand and the hype is at probably its highest before a season starts. Another good time to sell would be right before the playoffs start. And that's when people have, once again, hype and speculation and expectations of particular teams and players on those teams that they feel are gonna have a good showing in the playoffs. So people buy into those guys, thinking to themselves that if this guy gets out of this round, or if this guy does this during the playoffs, his cards will go up. Or if they reach the conference finals, or if they reach the finals, or if they reach the championship round, then their cards will go up. That's a good time to sell as well. Whether you're making 50% on your return on investment, or if you're making 20% on your return on investment, those are times when hype and expectation are at its highest. And I always feel like during those two times are good times to sell. Now, other times in which is a good time to sell is when a particular piece of news comes out or a trade happens. Like we've seen this past year with Francisco Lindor, we saw that with James Harden. Usually when a trade happens, there's a lot of excitement generated and then expectations again of what this person will do with that team and where that team will go after that trade. In a sense, the best time to sell your cards is whenever hype and expectations are running wild and people are in a frenzy or are fueled with emotion, just wanting to buy their guys, buy their players, buy into their thought processes and their theories of what will happen to a particular player for a particular team. So using that type of knowledge, you know when to sell. Whether you're selling too early and missing that peak, it's okay, because if you're buying at the right times as well, like during the off season when prices are starting to are low, then you can capitalize during the season. This is why I dabble in all sports, is because the sports cycle is very cyclical. While one sport is in mid-season, another sport's in during the off-season. When one sport goes into the playoffs, another sport is starting their season. So you can use that to your advantage if you do the research and you put effort and time into each sport to be able to know when to buy and when to sell in particular sports, and be able to do this kind of like year round. I know it's hard because it requires a lot of work and a lot of research to look into all these sports and be able to know when to buy and when to sell and all that jazz. But if you really do want to try to capitalize on the sports card market to its full capacity, then by being able to dabble in all these sports and gaining knowledge in each sport and knowing when to buy and when to sell, which players are hot, which players are not, it can really be to your benefit to be able to continually make a killing with your profit during this time. So that's just my point of view and my strategy on how I try to handle the cyclical nature of the sports card market and each sport. But there are particular times to sell, and I think if you focus on those times of selling, I don't think you could ever go wrong, as long as you're buying also at the right times. And I did talk about in one of my videos buying during the off season as a particular strategy, because yes, the prices are at its lowest during that time. This when to buy kind of thing is a good topic for another video, and I will dive deeper into that. But today's video is more about when to sell. And it's not so much as focusing on selling at the peak, but rather focusing on selling at particular times during the season or during the off season to capitalize on hype and demand. Like basic economics, demand drives the market. So when there's a influx of demand, that's usually a good time to sell. I really do hope you found some value in this. If you did, go ahead and hit the like button. If you haven't yet, please consider subscribing. Like I say, I do these videos every day where I talk about particular cards that I feel have value, strategies to help us become a little smarter in our purchasing and our selling, and just overall news about any sport that comes to my mind or any sport that I see has some value to talk about. So with that being said, my name is Josh, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Later.